All right, and we're live. I'm here with William Tishner, and today we will be talking about AI and disinformation. So William, I had a couple questions for you. Um, how long has AI disinformation been an issue for?
Well, while internet-driven disinformation has been a thing for decades at this point, it hasn't really had the power to greatly harm the masses until now. A combination of powerful backing, whether that's a corporation or hostile government, and the sprouting of advanced AI in the past few years have made this threat skyrocket.
Oh wow, okay. So can individuals protect themselves from this?
To some extent, yes, it can be hard to spot an AI, but humans are somewhat decent at it, still, especially if you've seen a lot. Furthermore, properly researching claims you see on the internet and limiting your exposure to social media gatherings can help. However, the main way we are going to have to tackle this problem is through policy changes and major overhauls, not really on the individual level.
Okay, yeah, that's encouraging. Um, so William, what is the difference between disinformation and misinformation? I hear that a lot, those two words.
So, misinformation is when false information is accidentally spread without malicious intent. In terms of AI, this typically shows up when a chatbot just screws up and prevents false information with confidence, like when ChatGPT tells you it's safe to leave a dog in a hot car. Disinformation is the presentation of false information with intent and can happen either to hold your attention or sway you to be exploited.
Okay. And so, William, I wanted to ask you about maybe your specific strategy for helping with AI disinformation. So, what would your strategy of restructuring the internet entail?
So, according to an article by Bontrader in 2021, adapting the business model of the web would be an integral part of this process because as long as platforms and search engines count on the remuneration received from advertisers, engagement of the users may be aimed. Essentially, social media algorithms as we know them today would have to no longer exist. They inherently spread disinformation to keep you on their websites. Additionally, the decentralization of the internet would both hinder censorship and hamper scrapers aiming to train models.
Okay, and how can this restructuring happen?
This happened mostly through government policy and collective action. According to an article by Smith in 2024, there are some promising initiatives, including regulation in the EU, the AI Act of the EU, and Brazil, a blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights in the US, the development of responsible practices for synthetic media, and a call for collective action to develop responsible practices.
Is the current AI up to the task of regulating the internet?
Not as of now. According to an article by Villasenor in 2020, addressing these attacks will require further advances in AI. Misclassification is very common with modern AI, and the consequences of this are major. Imagine a model made a mistake and learned the wrong truth about a matter. Now you have a rogue AI banning the truth as disinformation and pushing dangerous falsehoods.
Oh wow. Uh, so then why is AI regulation a proposed solution?
Because it, given a few more years, is the easy solution. According to an article by McNeil in 2024, there are promising technologies such as AI watermarking being developed to help both messengers and audiences distinguish between real and AI-generated content. These, if effective, would allow for easy, automated prevention of the issue.
And finally, William, why are these solutions important in the first place?
Well, in 2023, according to an article by Ryan Mosley in the same year, global internet freedom declined for the 13th consecutive year, driven in part by the proliferation of artificial intelligence. Deepfakes and other lies make the rounds on social media, where the algorithm will show you anything to keep you scrolling. Governments of all stripes see disinformation in their own countries to scatter the masses, and in other countries to sow discord. Basically, it's gotten really bad.
Thank you, William. That was really interesting learning about AI and disinformation.
Well, thank you. Well, now, Kyle,
Um,
let's switch gears, and I wanted to talk about your, excuse me, I got something in my throat. I wanted to talk about your thing about the construction industry and climate change.
yeah.
So, first off, how exactly does building infrastructure cause climate change?
So construction leads to climate change because of its use of energy-intensive building materials such as construction or steel. So if you think about it, the creation of cement, for example, is responsible for actually 8% of the world's CO2 emissions. And this is according to the United Nations Panel on Climate Change. So when operational, the facilities still release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere through the burning of natural gas, heating, and cooling. And so it is my job to look into ways to reduce emissions during and after construction.
Oh, wow. All right. So, what is CO2? Why is this important to climate change?
That's a great question, William. CO2 is carbon dioxide, and it is known to be the primary greenhouse gas that is leading climate change. And the reason why it's so significant is because of its ability to absorb and re-emit heat into the atmosphere. Think about the Earth as having a big warm blanket around it that keeps it warm. When people are releasing CO2 in the atmosphere, they're adding another blanket, so the Earth gets too hot. This is causing our planet's glaciers to melt and water levels to rise. CO2 levels have been increasing exponentially since the 90s, and this is according to climatechange.gov.
Oh, wow. That seems pretty dire. So, in the grand scheme of things, how big of a threat is climate change?
So climate change is actually it's a very significant threat that we should definitely consider. Not to say that we're all doomed in the next 15 years, but it is something that we should invest in now to preserve our planet for future generations. The IPIC estimates that the sea levels will actually rise by over 1 meter by the end of the century, and this could cause significant population displacement from the coastal cities. There is also a possibility of severe, irreversible weather changes as well as food scarcity that we need to also consider.
Well, Kyle, that is frankly terrifying. What are some challenges the construction industry faces when addressing climate change?
Well, there's actually there's a few answers to this question. According to a study from the Sustainable Manufacturing and Service Economics, the most prominent are legal and regulatory barriers that get in the way of sustainable design. For example, this can involve regional construction codes or state laws that require the use of steel in certain situations. There are also political factors as well that contribute from leaders who are also resistant to change.
So, I mean, speaking of these leaders, what is the role of the federal government in all this?
So the federal government's role in preventing the damages of climate change is actually, if you think about it, it's kind of similar to that of the university administration on a college campus. For example, your local university might invest in green items such as recycling bins or lighting that automatically shuts off. The government does a similar thing in that it leads by example, implementing acts that invest in clean energy, such as the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. And then that is according to whitehouse.gov. And this act lowers energy costs for consumers and small businesses and consequentially promotes America's clean energy economy.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Next, I wanted to ask a few questions about some proposed solutions to the problem.
Of course.
So, first off, what does renewable energy mean? What is the difference between this and non-renewable energy?
That's a great question. So according to the Office of Energy Efficiency and renewable energy is the energy of unlimited, naturally replenished resources that we find on Earth, such as sun, wind, and water. Non-renewable energy refers to the finite resources on Earth, such as coal, natural gas, and oil.
Okay. So, in what ways is renewable energy being built?
So renewable energy is being built in various ways. Some of the most common and sustainable devices that harness renewable energy include wind farms, solar panels, and hydropower, such as dams and steam turbines. Other methods stated by the U.S. Energy Information Administration also include geothermal devices, which can actually access the heat from the Earth's core and convert this heat into electricity and biofuels such as renewable diesel.
Well, that is very interesting. Next, I wanted to ask about some smart urban planning things. What is a real world example of smart urban planning? Is this even being done?
Yeah, so smart urban planning is actually it's being done around the globe. And I actually got to experience this firsthand with the company I'm working for over the summer, AECOM. And they're tackling a project called The Line in Saudi Arabia. And according to Arab MLS, this line, it measures to be approximately 170 kilometers wide, 660 feet wide, 170 kilometers long, 660 feet wide, and then 1,600 feet tall. So when you imagine that, it's a very thin city that stretches out very long. And the reason they do this is because they want to make everything accessible within a 5-minute walking distance. This smart design allows for no cars, which would reduce your carbon emissions because you just have to walk, you only have to walk everywhere.
Well, that is very cool. I've heard of the line before, actually. But
Really?
what are some other common practices of smart urban planning?
Yeah, so another common practice according to eartheco.org, or actually I should say some of the most common development techniques include mixed development areas that are designed with commercial, residential, and recreational spaces in close proximity. This would allow for easy accessibility and efficient use of infrastructure. Another common theme is a public transit system that is environmentally friendly, so that one might not have to use their personal vehicle and release those harmful chemicals into the environment.
All right. So earlier we were talking about the cost of concrete and how it released a lot of greenhouse gases. What are some alternative construction materials that are better for the environment?
Yeah, so one thing that I actually found interesting was that bamboo is an easy replacement to the harmful building materials such as PVC pipe, aluminum, steel, and concrete. According to transformationholdings.com, bamboo can also be used as charcoal fuel that doesn't release dangerous chemicals as opposed to fossil fuels.
All right. Well, thank you, Kyle. Very interesting things you're working on right now.
Thank you, William. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up our podcast for today. I hope everyone has a great day and hopefully you enjoyed tuning in. Thank you.